Introduction. Jazz is often described as America's original music, a genre that transcended borders and became an international phenomenon. But how did a style of music born in the streets of New Orleans evolve into a symbol of American culture? In this video, we'll take a journey through the origins of jazz, exploring its roots in African rhythms, its rise and prominence in the early 20th century, and its lasting impact on music and American culture. 1. The origins of jazz, a melting pot of influences. The roots of jazz can be traced to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, particularly in the city of New Orleans, which was a melting pot of diverse cultures, races, and musical traditions. The convergence of African rhythms, European harmonies, and Caribbean influences created a unique musical environment that gave birth to jazz. African slaves brought with them rich musical traditions, including call and response patterns, syncopation, and the use of percussion instruments, which would later become fundamental to jazz. In addition to African influences, European settlers contributed their own musical traditions, including the brass bands and marching music that became integral to jazz. The Caribbean also played a role, with its rhythmic beats and carnival-style music blending into the New Orleans sound. Together, these cultural and musical influences formed the foundation of what would become jazz. 2. The birth of jazz in New Orleans. New Orleans, with its vibrant African-American community and rich cultural diversity, was the perfect breeding ground for the birth of jazz. In the early 20th century, jazz began to take shape in the city's neighborhoods, with musicians blending African rhythms, blues, ragtime, and European harmonies. Music was played in bars, clubs, and dance halls, with street bands performing in parades and festivals, creating an energetic atmosphere that reflected the city's lively spirit. One of the first innovators of early jazz was cornet player Buddy Bolden, whose bold, improvisational playing laid the groundwork for the genre. His unique approach to rhythm and tone influenced many other musicians who followed, including Louis Armstrong, King Oliver, and Jelly Roll Morton. These early pioneers helped define jazz as a distinct musical form that was characterized by improvisation, syncopation, and a sense of freedom. 3. The rise of the jazz age, 1920s and the Harlem Renaissance. By the 1920s, jazz had begun to spread beyond New Orleans, and its popularity grew rapidly across the United States. This period, known as the Jazz Age, coincided with the Roaring Twenties, a time of cultural change and social upheaval in America. Jazz music, with its energetic rhythms and improvisational style, became the soundtrack of the era, symbolizing the freedom and excitement of the time. During this period, African-American musicians like Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Bessie Smith became household names. Armstrong's virtuoso trumpet playing and innovative improvisation helped elevate jazz to new heights, while Ellington's sophisticated arrangements and big band sound brought jazz to a wider audience. At the same time, jazz began to influence other genres of music, including blues, swing, and even classical music. The Harlem Renaissance, a cultural movement centered in New York City's Harlem neighborhood, played a significant role in the rise of jazz. During this period, jazz was embraced as a symbol of African-American cultural pride and artistic achievement. The music became a powerful expression of African-American identity and a catalyst for social change, as black musicians gained recognition and respect for their talent. 4. Jazz and the birth of swing, the 1930s and big bands. In the 1930s, jazz evolved again with the advent of swing music, a genre characterized by a steady rhythm, strong beats, and an emphasis on improvisation. Swing bands, led by musicians like Benny Goodman, Count Basie, and Glenn Miller, played an important role in bringing jazz to a broader audience. adding brass, woodwinds, and rhythm sections, creating a full and rich sound that became synonymous with the era. Swing music took over the dance halls and became the dominant form of popular music in America. The energetic rhythms and infectious melodies of swing made it perfect for dancing, and the music became a major part of American social life. This era of jazz also saw the rise of legendary soloists like saxophonist Coleman Hawkins and trumpet virtuoso Louis Armstrong, whose contributions to jazz were transformative. By the bebop revolution, the 1940s and the birth of modern jazz. By the 1940s, jazz experienced a dramatic shift with the emergence of bebop, a fast-paced, complex style of jazz that placed an emphasis on improvisation and virtuosic skill. Bebop was developed by musicians like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie and Thelonious Monk, who sought to push the boundaries of jazz and explore new harmonic and rhythmic possibilities. Bebop was a response to the commercialized swing music of the previous decade, with musicians moving away from big bands and returning to smaller combos. The emphasis was on individual expression and technical prowess, with jazz musicians experimenting with complex chord changes, faster tempos, and intricate melodies. While bebop was less accessible to mainstream audiences, it laid the groundwork for modern jazz that influenced generations of musicians who followed. Jazz had spread across the globe, influencing musicians and composers from every corner of the world. Jazz became a symbol of American culture and a powerful diplomatic tool during the Cold War. The U.S. State Department sent jazz ambassadors like Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington to perform in countries around the world, helping to promote American ideals of freedom and creativity. Jazz also inspired musicians in other countries to develop their own unique styles. In France, for example, jazz became popular in the 1920s, and artists like Django Reinhardt created a distinctive form of jazz known as gypsy jazz. In Brazil, musicians like Antonio Carlos Jobim blended jazz with bossa nova, creating a fusion that continues to influence the world of jazz today. 7 Jazz in the modern era, a continuing legacy. Today, jazz remains a vital part of American music and culture, though its popularity has waned in comparison to its heyday. Nevertheless, jazz continues to influence a wide range of musical genres, from pop and rock to hip-hop and electronic music. Contemporary jazz musicians, such as Wynton Marsalis, Esperanza Spalding, and Kamasi Washington, continue to innovate within the genre, pushing jazz in new directions while staying true to its roots. Jazz festivals, such as the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland and the Newport Jazz Festival in Rhode Island, celebrate the genre's legacy, bringing together musicians from around the world to share their love of jazz. The genre remains an important part of the cultural fabric of America, and its influence can be heard in virtually every genre of modern music. Conclusion: jazz became America's original music because of its roots in African American culture, its blending of diverse musical traditions, and its evolution through different eras. From its origins in New Orleans to its global reach, jazz has been a symbol of American creativity, freedom, and innovation. It's a genre that continually reinvents itself while honoring its rich history, and it remains one of the most influential forms of music in the world today.